Namaste. Welcome
Namaste.
to Numinous Wishes, new session of it's a new episode we are doing with Sangita. She's a Shakti worshipper and a great musician from who lives in London, but she's basically originally from India. So we call this session as Romance of Goddesses, a cycle of mantra of Shiva Shakti. So, as an introduction, Sangita Lakhanpal practice is a unique form of artistic which gives voice to universal wisdom through the language of myth and mantra music. That is what she is trying to guide us to. And Sangita tried to serve her music as a medium, like she's just allowing herself to flow the divine voice through her. As she's a practitioner, I'm sure that she can do that 100% and flawlessly. All the best for the journey. Let her work prove that what she is. And I would love to support great artists through our platforms so that people come to know what is the power of mysticism and what is the power of Shakti worship is. Welcome, Sangeeta, and I'm handing over the session to you. If you want to say something more, you can say before starting the session. Please, handing over to you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Namaste. Namaste. What an honor it is to be here on this lovely Sunday afternoon here in London. So thank you, Arun, for inviting me to Numinous Wishes.
Yeah.
And to offer something for you. And I thought today it would be great to give a rendition of the romance story of Shiva and Shakti. And I think when we talk about the romance story of Shiva Shakti, I think it's always a good idea to talk about Shiva's first wife, Sati, because you can almost say that this was the trial marriage. And sometimes in life, what happens, it's the second marriage, which is the successful marriage often, because one can say one can have a trial marriage and one learns from that. And then the second marriage is the marriage that endures if one has learned their lessons. And I can see that in this story, you know, Shiva and Sati, they go through a process together of evolution. Even divine beings that become embodied have this, they go through this journey. So I think I'm just going to start, you know, with the story of Sati, and then we'll see how this then evolves into Shiva's and Parvati's marriage.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Great.
You want to say something about your music instrument, maybe in 2 words? Iktara or sitar? Which one you are using?
I think we're going to use
both of them.
I think let's use the Ektara. And so the Ektara was given to me by a sadhu because I was a pilgrim on Narmada. So 12 years ago, I left my life in the UK to become a pilgrim on the river Narmada. So I had a calling to go and immerse myself deeply and go back to the land. And my teacher has been nature, you can say, and Narmada became my guru. So and before this, I was a human rights lawyer, and then I became a yogini, and I was teaching yoga in prisons, in rehabilitation centers, in hospitals, and in school curriculums in England. And then after 8 years, I had a calling to go back to India and go back to the river and start walking. And while I was a pilgrim on the river Narmada, I was given an Ektara. So you can say an ektara is just one chord, and in this one chord, in this one string, contains all the harmonics of what you could say of universal creation. So it's a very mystical instrument, and traditionally bards and storytellers and mystics have used this instrument because within it contains everything in an ektara. Yeah, so
it's mostly a tantric instrument. Yeah, many tantric worships use such kind of an instrument in spaces like Bengal and all. It's a very unique instrument they use for their tantric rituals. So I have experienced such kind of groups quite often. So I know about the mysticism of that instrument. Please continue.
yes, and we could even talk about the Tara. So Tara, you can say, from her Dashama Vidya incarnation is very connected to sound and the primal sound and the sound of Om. And so the Tara, so it's the first primal sound from which all sound and all creation is born.
Yeah.
So Brahma is surrounded by his mind-born sons, his 10 mind-born sons. And deep in his meditation, there comes a surprising creation. Dawn is born. And she is the most beautiful woman ever created. Dark, long hair flowing past her hips. Crystalline perspiration on her dark skin. Dark, luminous eyes. And then next, behold, another surprise is born from Brahma's meditation. And this time it's a youth, a beautiful young man, olive skin and green eyes, curly hair, and carrying a set of bow and arrows. He asks Brahma, who am I? What is my name? What is my purpose? Brahma thinks for a moment and then says that you are Kama. You are the god of desire, and forever whom you shall aim your arrow, be it a god or a human or any being, they shall become full of desire.
I think, sorry to disturb, you should adjust your Iktara a little bit. The sound is not that audible. So, I mean, you can keep it very close, a little bit close to the microphone so that the sound is audible of Iktara. Yep.
Can you hear?
Yes.
And so Kama decides to try out his power. And he shoots the arrow into the air. And suddenly, the 10 mind sun, these fine yogis, become full of desire for dawn. And so does Brahma. And it's such a scene. Now Shiva, who's sitting in meditation, senses the scene. And he goes aloft and finds the mind-born sons and Brahma displaying scenes of desire. And Shiva says, how can all of you fine yogis be set on fire like this? And all for a woman? Shiva's words sting Brahma and cast him out of his desirous trance. How can Shiva, thinks Brahma, be immune to desire? And if he is, what good is he to creation? Sitting as a yogi, what good is he? What power will he have in the creation? And so he thinks that Shiva needs a wife, needs a Shakti so he can fulfill his role as the destroyer. But who can be the woman? And Brahma thinks, of course, it is the great goddess. We will have to ask the great goddess to incarnate, to be his wife. And so he asks his mind-born son Daksha to meditate, to invoke her. So for thousands and thousands of millennia, Daksha meditates, calling on the great goddess. And eventually, she appears before him, dark, seated on her lion. Oh, great goddess, daughter of the Himalaya, the void within the void, you who create the universe and dwell within it. Please grant us this. Please incarnate to be Shiva's wife. And the great goddess says, well, yes, of course, but this is not going to be easy. But when Shiva sees me, he will find me in the kernel of his heart. And so she agrees to be Daksha's daughter, but only on the condition that he recognizes that she is the great goddess. And if he fails to do this, she will leave her body. So soon after, she is born to Daksha. And her first words are Shiva. And when she comes of age, she leaves her parents and becomes a yogini, practices great austerities. In the meantime, the gods Vishnu and Brahma pay a visit to Shiva and persuade him to take a wife. They tell him of Sati and her great austerities. And so Shiva pays her a visit. And in the bushes hiding is Kama, watching the scene. Kama gets ready to shoot the arrow, and he shoots it in Shiva's heart. And when Shiva sees Sati, he is full of desire. Sati opens her eyes and sees Shiva, and he wants her to be his wife. But Shiva must ask Daksha for permission. And so, in the traditional way, Daksha grants Shiva permission to marry Sati, and the great wedding takes place. All the beings from the universe attend. The gods are happy. And after the wedding, Shiva and Sati are in. And this is a great time of blossoming in the universe as Shiva and Sati make love in sacred groves, in mountaintops. Sarva Mangalye Mangalye Shive Sarvak Sadhake. Sarva Mangalye Mangalye Shive Sarvak Sadhake. Sharanya Triyambake Gari Narayani Namostute. Sarva Mangolye Mangolye Shive Sarvak Sadhake Sharanye Triambake Gauri Narayani Namo Stute. Shiva Shaktiya Yukto Yadi Bhavati Saktam Prabhavitam. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 Now, in the meantime, Daksha's power has been growing as a great patriarch, and he wants to organize religion. And so he invites every being to a sacrifice. Every celestial, divine creature is invited, but he doesn't invite Shiva and his daughter. For Shiva is an embarrassment to him. Shiva lives on the margins. But Sati finds out from her cousin, and she becomes furious, and she wants to go to the sacrifice, and Shiva forbids her. And she starts to change into a terrible form, her fury darkening her skin. Shiva cannot bear to look at her, and he turns away. And then she turns into another form. And in every 10 directions he looks, she is there in all these various forms, and he becomes terrified. And he acquiesces and says to her that she can go. As she travels, she suddenly realizes that she will leave her body, but she knows that she will return as Parvati and fulfill her mission to give Shiva a family. And so she meditates and she leaves her body. The gods wail in grief. Shiva senses that something is not right. And he goes out and he sees her body lying dead on the floor, lifeless. He tries to bring her back to life. Sati, Sati, Sati. He carries her body and he turns up to the sacrifice. Furious. He destroys everything. And then he picks up Sati's body. And in his grief, great destruction starts to happen. Everything is coming to an end. Tsunamis, volcanoes. The universe is being destroyed, and the gods must act again. And so they appeal to Saturn, to Shuni, and they ask him to cut her body into pieces. And so Shuni, following Shiva's footsteps, cuts Sati's body into pieces. And where it falls, it absorbs back into the earth, her body becoming a sacrifice, a Shakti Pit. Sarva Mangalye Mangalye Shive Sarvak Sadhake Sharanye Triambake Gauri Narayani Namo Stute Narayani Namo Stute. And all these places become sacred places. And there will be a time when we return to these places and we remember the goddess. Narayani Namo Stute Narayani Namo Stute. But Sati will return, and she will return as Parvati. And so the story continues. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shakti Rupena Sanstitha Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shakti Rupena Sanstitha Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. And so she incarnates as the daughter of the king and the queen of the Himalaya. And she goes through the same austerities as she did. And Shiva is seduced by her beauty again. And they are married. And this time, they are to be together eternally. An enlightened man, an enlightened woman, coming together as one in relationality. Ya Devi. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Karuna Rupena Samstita Namastasyai Namaha Sasyai Namastasyai Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Karuna Rupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Because this time they recognize that they are both one and within each other. Within the kernel of his heart is Shakti. And without her power, he cannot perform his function in the universe. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shakti Rupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shakti Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha. So I think that in this story is this recognition that between each being, we have the masculine and the feminine, Shiva Shakti within us. And we can experience this within ourselves as this combustion almost of energy, of this union within ourselves. And when we experience that, then we can be in relationality with another who has the same experience, who knows that they have both the masculine and the feminine within them and have experienced that union within themselves. And so they are together eternally and they fulfill their mission, you could say, to have children, to bring balance back into the world again. Okay, so
we have 10 more minutes remaining. So if you want to share something more about the mysticism or your path, you can share both. So we have 10 more minutes. Yeah.
Okay, so I think let's talk more about this union of the masculine and the feminine energy within the self, you know, within the individual, we could say. This alchemy, this process. So one experiences this marriage within oneself. So, and it brings me to a poem actually by Rumi. And I think Rumi describes this really well. So in Rumi's poem, he says, if you place your soul against this all with me, you will find that the energy which creates the universe will enter every sinew in you, but not from a place outside of yourself, but from a holy realm that exists within us all. Exuberance is existence, and time is a husk. And when the moment cracks open, ecstasy leaps out and devours space. Love grows wild like the blessings my words give. My dear, be kind to yourself, to your innocent follies, and forget any touch, any sound you knew that could not make you dance. And then you will find that all evolves us. Now, when you place your heart against the earth with me, our beloved will enter you, and we will be so happy, and we will be so happy in serving every living being. So Rumi is saying that once we experience this enlightenment process within ourselves, this union, this combustion, this ecstasy, this rapture, this energy, when we know we have this power of creation within us, we then direct this energy towards service. So the life becomes one of service. This is what we do with this energy, and then it is divine, channeling it in a divine direction. So often we know of the stories where the asuras, they are meditating and they have knowledge of this power and they experience this power of creation, but they direct it towards their individual desires. So in Rumi's poem, you could say he could be speaking about the relationship between Shiva and Parvati, that they both know that they are divine and have this energy, this sacred marriage within themselves, and together they come together in service of the universe, because this is what they do when they come together. They have their children. She bears Kartik, who then defeats the demonic energy which is destroying the universe. So it's what we do with our practices, what we do with our energy, what we do with it is what I think is really important, because
Yeah, as you said, their conversation as a family member, their conversation bring out all the 64 tantras to the universe, you know, their conversations and their
of course,
interactions brings out all forms of tantra. There are 64 major tantras, and it have nothing to do with whatever things are happening in this Western world now. So it's about how conscious living can be bring to a normal family life. They teach us, and through them, all the possible ways were established. Like a conscious living, even though you are a family man or a family woman, you have many responsibilities. So how consciously you can live, how balanced you can live, they teach us. Yes.
Absolutely. Giving, I mean, one of my favorite scriptures is the Vigyan Ved of Tantra. So the conversation between these two lovers gives us the whole of the science of the universe and the practices and the techniques to experience that also. Because I think the heart of Tantra is that, you know, it's about experience. It's experiencing that, it's
Vijnana Bhairav
embodying.
Tantra mostly explains about the dharana techniques, the techniques that take you to the doorstep of meditation. Meditation don't have any techniques, but to reach just before the state of meditation, you need techniques. So those 118 techniques or something like that, those all are dharana techniques, which help to make you ready to contain the meditative quality. So just to tell, yeah, please continue.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I love about it is the beginning, in which we could describe as the banter verses, the playfulness between the two lovers. And I think what makes it really unique is like with all creation stories from other cultures, there's always some terrible consequences when we think of the love story, you know, or with the story of Adam and Eve, and we think of the relationship, the love stories, they don't fare well in the end. But this story is unique. You know, the Shiva Parvati story in the creation story is that, you know, the it has a good outcome.
Anything
That
which is
the
conscious
lovers,
have a, anything which is have more consciousness have a more farewell. You know, where there is a consciousness is lacking, it's not. That's why anger is not beautiful, love is more beautiful. Anger is not beautiful because the consciousness is missing there. Love is more beautiful because consciousness is there. So I think that is the answer.
yes, and I think that well, when the emotions become auspicious or the feelings become auspicious, because we can say that you know, Kali, there is anger, but it's auspicious anger, it's auspicious rage. And the beauty for me in Tantra is that we can experience, you know, the emotions and experience life through the senses, but with this, you know, awareness, absolutely, with this awareness of consciousness that ultimately, beyond everything, the reality, the ultimate reality is love. So
Yes, I think we are nearing to closing this session. So thank you so much, Sangita. You give a wonderful, rendering. So we look forward to have more live real sessions with you in our programs, upcoming festivals, etc., etc. So thank you so much. This was an amazing start, and yeah.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. And I think my journey really is speaking as a diaspora. So I am Indian heritage, and that I was in England. So I think what I bring is I'm taking these, ancient wisdoms from my heritage, which I want to celebrate and give voice to. But in a way, you can say that they are communicated in through my diaspora experience. So I hope to give that perspective through this lens.
Amazing.
That I can share the wisdoms bequeathed to me by my ancestors.
Yes. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste.
Bye-bye.